Hi everyone, in this video you're going to see what learning evaluation involves. So our group is formed by Valeria Angamarca, Yuliana Paladines, Nataly Quezada, and me, Thalía Brito. So let's get started. First of all, let's see what is evaluation and what is assessment. So Okay, as we know, evaluation is a broader process that involves making judgments about it can be the quality, value, or effectiveness of something. For example, a program, a course, or even a unit. And so, in the other hand, assessment is a systematic process of gathering information and evidence through a set of resources that we can use about our students' knowledge, skills, abilities, or even performance. So, assessment, as we know, allow us to measure our students' learning process. So now let's see some examples of evaluation and assessment to better understanding. So, as I said before, we can evaluate a program and also a teacher, a curriculum, a course, and even a unit. So, these evaluations are going to be made or evaluated by external agents. So, these are some examples of evaluations, and on the other hand, we have the assessment tools or resources that are quizzes, multiple choice tests, portfolio assessment, performance task, oral presentations. So these are going to help us or to allow us to measure our students' learning process. Well, now let's see some differences and similarities between evaluation and assessment. So, evaluation is carried out at the end of a course or a unit or something that we are evaluating, and it is summative. Why? Because we are going to measure the quality of the course or program which was evaluated at the end of the process. And on the other hand, assessment is carried out during the whole process, and it can be formative and also diagnostic. So, it's an ongoing observations to improve the learning, and also the evaluation is product oriented. What does it mean? It means that our focus is going to be only at the end of the process, and with it we can make the necessary judgments about whether the course or program worked or not, and also we can make judgments about what students have learned by the end of a unit. And talking about assessment, its orientation is focused on the process. As the name says, it is going to focus on the process itself. So it can tell us how learning is going and if it's going according to our learning goals, and if not, we can make some changes in order to improve our students' learning. So these changes can be identified or noticed at the during that process. So if we notice that something is going in a bad way, we can make some improvements on that to achieve our learning outcomes or goals. So, according to the findings on evaluations or the results, they are going to allow us to make judgments in order to see what were the strengths and weaknesses of the product that was evaluated. On the other hand, the findings on assessment is focused on the results of each stage of the process, and with this we have to identify areas for improvement, and thus make some improvements to have better results to achieve our objective that was set. So, in summary, evaluation will be carried out at the end. So at the end, we are going to make some judgments about the product that was evaluated, and to see the weakness or strength to reflect on this. And an assessment, on the other hand, is carried out during the process and will help us to improve during that process, to make improvements. And the similarities that we can find between them are that both of them requires data, requires collection the data, and also provides feedback, and also they are driven by evidence, as I said before. And now let's continue with the purpose.
The purpose of learning evaluation is to measure the proficiencies in different aspects of teaching and pedagogy, such as teachers' competence, instructional techniques, and classroom management skills. This allows us to identify strengths and weakness, to provide an adequate feedback and support for our students in order to learn outcomes. In this way, we can ensure professional standards and promote reflective teaching.
So now let's talk about the types of evaluation. Okay, so first let's start about placement evaluation. So the purpose of this assessment or evaluation is to aim to assess an individual's proficiency and knowledge in a specific subject area. They are often used in educational settings to determine an appropriate level of courses or programs that students should be in, ensuring that they are challenged but not overwhelmed. So, as the name says, this is used to place students in the appropriate level of their grade, course, or program. Now, as for diagnostic assessment or evaluation, it is a form of assessment used in education to gather information about an individual's knowledge, skills, abilities, or potential issues. It is typically conducted at the beginning of a learning or evaluation process, and the main purpose of this diagnostic assessment or evaluation is to gather information about an individual's current level of knowledge or skills in a particular area. It helps educators understand the individual's strengths, weaknesses, and specific areas that require further attention. The information gathered through diagnostic assessments helps inform decision-making processes, and educators can use the data to plan appropriate instructional strategies, interventions, or accommodations in the classroom. So as we already know, these evaluations or assessments can take various formats. So, for example, as for placement evaluation, we can choose from these various formats that I mentioned, like multiple choice tests, essays, problem solving tasks, oral interviews. And as for diagnostic, we have tests, interviews, questionnaires, performance tests. So you can choose individual or a combination of these formats, and a specific format depends on the subject being assessed and, of course, on the preferences of the institution or the educator according to the goals of the test or the evaluation. Okay, so now let's talk about formative evaluation or assessment. So, formative assessment or evaluation takes place during the learning process, allowing teachers to make ongoing adjustments to instruction based on the feedback received. The primary purpose of formative assessment is to monitor and support student learning in real time. It aims to identify gaps in understanding, misconceptions, and areas where students need additional support. So, formative assessment provides timely and specific feedback to students, highlighting their strengths and areas for improvement. This feedback helps them understand what they have mastered and what they still need to work on. And formative assessment promotes a continuous improvement cycle by using the collected data to adjust instructional strategies, content delivery, and classroom activities. So, it is safe to say that the feedback received does not only help the students but also teachers because of what I mentioned. It helps them identify strengths and weaknesses, adjust instruction, change the classroom activities, adjust the instructional strategies, and so on. So it enables teachers to address individual and collective student needs effectively. And formative assessment encourages and promotes active student participation through peer and self assessment. It empowers students to take ownership of their learning, reflect on their progress, and set goals for improvement. So, of course, let's talk about summative assessment or evaluation. Summative assessments are typically administered after a period of instruction or at the end of a course. They are designed to provide a snapshot of a student's learning at a specific point in time, such as the end of a unit, a semester, or even at the end of a school year. So, unlike formative assessment, which focuses on providing ongoing feedback and guided instruction, summative assessment aims to summarize a student's overall knowledge, skills, and understanding of a subject. And as for content coverage, summative assessments generally cover a wider range of topics or skills taught throughout the instructional period. They aim to assess the overall understanding and mastery of the subject matter. And as for feedback, unlike formative assessments, which prioritize feedback for improvement, summative assessments tend to provide limited feedback directly to students. However, feedback may be provided to guide future instruction or curriculum development. And also, it's important to know that while summative assessments play a valuable role in evaluating student performance, a balanced assessment approach that includes both formative and summative assessment, and not only them, but all the other assessment types, I consider most effective for achieving or enhancing learning outcomes and informing instructional decisions. So it's not a matter of just choosing one type of assessment, it's a matter of choosing and making them work as a team. So, as I've already mentioned, form assessments and evaluations can take various formats, and formative and summative assessment and evaluation are not the exception. So, for a formative evaluation or assessment, you can choose from observation, quizzes or tests, group discussions, and of course, class participation. And as for summative evaluation, you can choose from final projects, research papers, for portfolios, and oral presentations. And the choice of format depends on the learning objectives, the subject matter, the context, the goals of the course, or the requirements that the teacher needs to meet.
Well, also we have formal and informal evaluation. So let's see what they involve. Formal evaluation help us to judge the students' performance through the use of standardized tools and tests. For example, the common tests that we have at the end of a unit, also the Cambridge or TOEFL or ELTS. There are some standardized tools and tests. And an informal evaluation, on the other hand, we don't need to use such standardized tools, but we check the student's performance through observation. So, in this part, it's necessary to know that we don't need, or it is not so necessary to have a grade or a score of our students, just to provide them feedbacks and yeah. So also formal evaluation provide a broad view of students' knowledge. It means that it's going to provide us a general view of our students' knowledge. So, and informal evaluation, on the other hand, it's going to provide us detailed information from each student. So we are going to know from each student what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, so and also their specific needs in order to improve our teaching and also their learning process. And also in formal evaluation, we have to know that their purpose is to know about a student's academic process just in a general way. And in formal evaluation, we use them to determine the student's progress and also the skill level of each of them. Okay, now let's see some examples about formal and informal evaluation. Within formal, we have end of term exams, also intelligence tests, and a project with a specific grading criteria. So these formal evaluation are going to help us to know about our students' academic learning progress. And on the other hand, we have the informal evaluation, that is presentations, experiments, debates, peer teaching, quizzes, writing samples, assignments, and so on. So these informal evaluation are going to help us to observe our students learning process, and also to know or to check their skill level and their academic progress.
Hi teacher, hi classmate. The next topic is assessment design. So once learning goals or outcomes are defined to the curriculum, the next step is to determine how well students in your class have accomplished or programs learning outcomes or goals. So, in this part, we have four main points. The first is focus on articulate assessment. So, which outcome should be focused? What do faculty want to know or curious about? The second is determine evidence or indicators. So, what information need to be gathered to answer the questions? How will you know that the students are achieving the class goals? And what are going to be the most useful and meaningful information to improve our class program? The third is the determine judgment criteria. So, what criteria are you going to use to determine program effectiveness or success? And finally, we have determine methods. It is according to the teachers. So the teachers are going to use the best method to the students, the best method that can achieve the teachers' goals to improve their class. Okay, the next part is validity and reliability. So I'm going to start with validity. So, educational assessment should always have a clear purpose, making validity. In this part, if you want to the students achieve reading skills, you are not going to just focus in speaking. The next is face validity. Do the assessment items appear to be appropriate? So it's according to the student level, it's according to the student's needs. So you have to keep in mind that if the tests are going to be according to the student's level or according to the student's needs. The third is content validity. Does the assessment content cover what you want to assess? The tests have all the important points that you were teaching during the class. The next is criterion relating validity. How well does the test measured what you want it to? So the test the tests are going to measure the goals that you want to achieve. So the next is construct validity. Are you measuring what you think you are measuring? Are you putting into practice the first goals that you have in mind when the period class starts? And finally, if possible, compare your measure with other measures or data that may be available. In this part, you can share your ideas or methods with your colleagues or look for information in websites or internet. Okay, in this part we have the reliability. So this puts you in a better position to make generalized statements about the student's level of achievement. For instance, suppose that why students didn't do this well, or why the students did well this question. So you can generalize, and this give you a reliability according to the test. The second is the suitability of the questions or tasks for the students being assessed. So you are you using the corresponding question to the student's level? So, or You were using the corresponding task according to the topics. And the next is the phrasing and terminology of the questions. So, are you using the corresponding grammar according to the student level? You you have to use the corresponding vocabulary or grammar according to the students. You can use an advanced level if you are teaching to the beginners. Then next is the consistency in test administration. For example, if the time are going to be enough to accomplish the test, or if the instructions were clear, or if I going to help the students if they don't know any word meaning. The next is the design of the marking schedule and moderation of marking procedures. So, what criteria I am going to use to give the grades to grade the test? The next is the readiness of the students for assessment. For example, if the students have a spirit class of a competition before the test, you can't make the test for that day because they are going to be tired, so they are not going to be in a good behavior, in a good mood. So it could be a problem for you and for the students because they maybe are not to achieve the class goals or the class outcomes. Okay, in this part, we have the method will depend upon the type of assessment instrument. So, as I mentioned before, the method that the class are going to use is according to the teacher because it's according to the teacher's goals that the teacher are going to use the best method to improve and achieve their goals. So, um, obviously, the instruments are going to be based of the method. So, finally, it's match your assessment measure to your goals and objectives. Additionally, have the test reviewed by faculty at other schools to obtain feedback from an outside party who is less invested in the instrument. So, in the same way as I mentioned before, you can share your ideas or planning to your colleagues, or look for information in websites, and you can share your ideas with teachers that are not invested in your class, so you can obtain feedback, and it's maybe are going to give you ideas to improve your class and achieve your class goals.
As I mentioned about, it's important to select appropriate methods in order to learning outcomes and provide a comprehensive evaluation of a student's learning. Here we have some examples such as lesson observations. This can be oral tests or just participation in class. In self-assessment and reflections, is to encourage students to reflect about their learning programs and provide self-evaluations. Portfolios. At university, we use the portfolios. Is to assess students' progress by collect and compilation their activities or work in class. Professional develop participations. This is important in between teachers and students to attend in different conference or training stations to improve themselves. Assessing students' progress. We have a few tools in this part to evaluate or students' abilities or skill, for example, multiple choice tests or presentation tests, etc. Peer review and collaboration. This can be between teachers to improve their materials teaching and students to promote a collaborative learning environment. Keep in mind that this assessment method should be used in a constructive and supportive manner, focusing on professional growth rather than a punitive evaluation. Thank you. This is our presentation. Please, if you have any question or doubt, please let us know.